Hello, career thought leaders. It's good to see you today. And we are talking about how we can use AI, and maybe not, and in some ways we can, to research and do the rehearsal we need to do for salary negotiation. Now, we do call this compensation negotiation when we teach it in our interview and compensation negotiation coach class, because there are so many other things that people can negotiate besides salary. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. We'll talk about some of the simple prompts that we might get when we dive into salary negotiation or look around on the lovely LinkedIn and all of the cheat sheets. But how do we dive deeper with people to take it not just to salary negotiation, but to compensation negotiation? And how do we help them through each phase? So we're going to go through research, rehearsal, and reflection, and ways that we can help people do those steps using AI combined with our coaching so that they can have the best outcomes for salary and compensation negotiation. So thank you for joining us. Drop a note in the chat. Let us know that you're watching or watching the replay. And what are your main clients' challenges when it comes to salary negotiation? So before we dive into the how-tos, let's talk about the why. So research shows that somewhere between 68 and 84% of employers expect that you will negotiate. So from JobVite and eRecruiter, there's data that shows recruiters expect you to negotiate your compensation. This is not something that is going to catch them off guard, right? And one study from Fidelity showed that 84% of people, same number, but similar, got what they asked for when they negotiated, or at least a part of it. Now, there was another research study where it was more in the 50s, but somewhere, a good amount, more than not, of the time, people will get what they asked for or some of what they asked for when they negotiate. So it's so important that people have the opportunity to figure out how to negotiate in a way that works for them. And I'm just going to drop this right now before we move into it. There is not one right way to negotiate salary. There are several people that say, oh, if you mention the number first, you're a goner. If you don't mention the number first, whatever. And what I started to notice as I did the research and put together our coach training program is that there are a million different ways to do it. Everybody says their way is the only way, the right way, the whatever. But here's the bottom line. The best way for your client to negotiate is the way that they will. Because so few people actually negotiate. I think part of the reason they don't negotiate is because they've read, this is the way to do it. And they think there's no way I could ever say that. That doesn't sound like me. That doesn't feel right to me. And so they don't do it because they think that they can't do it in the right way. So they're not going to do it at all. But we as coaches can help them find what works for them. What kind of communication style is going to work for them? And things have changed a lot. When I first started teaching salary negotiation, the rule was, never negotiate via email. Well, then COVID, right? And lots of people started negotiating via email. Even way before that, I had clients that were doing it because it was the best fit for them. It was the only way they felt comfortable. And it was better than nothing, right? For them. So our goal as the coach is to help guide them along the process, research, rehearse, reflect, and to do it in a way that works for them. Now, when we go to do the research, like this is kind of an obvious one, right? AI can help us with the research. You can ask it to pull from credible sources. You can ask it to provide the links to the sources, which most of them do now anyways, so that you can get the information in a way that works for you. So let's try a prompt. We're going to try it today in two different systems just to see what the output looks like. Does it give us the sources automatically? And I'm going to specifically not include that it includes the sources just to see what happens. Yes, you could boss it around and tell it that you want to, but when we get started here, we're just going to do a very simple prompt and see what we get. So let's start in Perplexity. And I'm just going to put in a very simple prompt. Compare the salary ranges for a senior product manager and it's going to be best if you have the title and the location. Obviously, you can paste in the actual job description if you have it and you want to. Today, we're just going to start with this and see what it gives us. I did give it, using data from. You could use sites that you trust, or you could try it without telling which sites and see what you get. Now, we know Perplexity is very good. It's always going to give us the sources that are easy to click down here so that we can see what the output is coming from. Here's the thing that we want to do for ourselves and for our clients is actually click through and read and see, does it match up with what I'm getting? And so I got it in a table, which is nice. I like that these systems have started putting things like this in a table, but this is exactly what I would tell people to do on their own, right? Look at the ranges from several different sites. You don't just want to look at one site. Some of the sites aren't going to be pulled up in these because they make you put your stuff in and answer questions. Like PayScale makes you put in information before it will give you the salary. So they may want to do some things outside of these as well. And I could even ask here, what other sites should I check? Are there any where I can put in years of experience and other information to get better output? And I know that there is. I just am wanting to see what it comes up with. So it's going to give me other sites to try and ones with you where you can customize which pay scale was the one that I was thinking about. And I could even ask, and I could have asked this before. Some of them do have a cost. So I could add that to my table. And this is a great way if you're building something for your practice, right? We can use AI to build a table for our practice that then we could share with all clients. So now it put in the cost and does it require an account? That might be helpful for my clients. So I can get the research done faster than poking around at individual sites. And I can build a process for, hey, these are the places where you want to go and do your research. The research piece is the easiest to put in here, right? But this isn't the only type of research we could do. So I am going to grab this initial prompt. We're going to put it into ChatGPT just to see what it does. Let me show you my ChatGPT window here. Change over to that one. So it did very similar output levels. You can see it's giving you the links. I didn't even have to ask it to. And this is the paid version, but the free version will do the same thing. I just have the paid version for speed and knowing that I'm going to be able to get it. And then it gave me that information. So most of these sites will do the same things. But here's a different angle that I want you to consider taking. So I want to know, what questions could I ask in early interviews to better understand the requirements, my competitive positioning, and their compensation structure process. Because here's the thing, when they offer you a job, they've already decided that they want you. You've got to know what your leverage is and what the options are. So you probably heard this story, but my husband and my brother-in-law interviewed at the same company about a year apart. When my husband interviewed, he got the job. He tried to negotiate for his vacation, and he just said, I'd like another week of vacation. And they said no, right? Oh, asked and answered. But when my brother-in-law did it, he knew that when people had 5 years of experience there, they got an extra week because now he had an in with my husband, right? And so he said, I know that you offer an extra week of vacation when people have 5 years of experience. I have 5 years of experience. It's just not with you. And they gave it to him because he fit his request into their structure. So what I want clients to be thinking about in their early interviews is, what is your leverage going to be? How are you going to know that you're the best person for this job so that you can get the job, but also then so that when it comes to the negotiation phase, you know what the options are. And we might be able to get that through questions we ask in the interview. I'd be a little bit careful with this. Sometimes it's going to suggest questions that we've got to be careful about when we ask and how we ask, that it doesn't make it sound like we're all about the money, right? But it gives you some questions that we might already tell people to ask. Biggest challenges, what does success look like? Are there any gaps on the team you're hoping this person will fill? All of this is building our ability to make a competitive argument for why we deserve the higher end of the range, right? If they've got this gap, then when I'm negotiating later on, I could say, well, it seems like you're offering it at this range. How could we work together to get up to here, knowing that I bring X, Y, and Z that you are looking for? So we're being able to better present our case, our business case for hiring us when we've asked some of these questions. So what are the top things they're looking for in the role? How does it fit? Depending on the job, and probably not in the first interview, but if we're interviewing with HR, we could ask, how's the compensation structured? Do they have a philosophy around benchmarking ranges or levels? Some of these might be appropriate at different times in the interview process, but this would give us some ideas of what we're looking at. And then other ways that we could research, I was just wondering what it would come up with. Yeah, network strategically, reach out to former employees or people who maybe do work there that you know well, you'd have to know them well, and ask some of these questions around how it's structured, how they determine levels. Like this level question is awesome, right? Because a lot of times, especially big companies, will have these defined levels and you can only move up one level at a time, or they have to hire at a specific level, blah, 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 right? So there's this insider knowledge that we can try to get either by networking or by asking questions in the interview, when we can do it in a way that doesn't bring up a bunch of concerns about our way of handling salary. So this is what we're looking for. Can I do my research, but also am I thinking about ahead of time, what am I going to ask so that I have the information I need to build my business case and to approach negotiation in a way that fits inside their corporate structure in whatever way that is. So maybe they can ask for a level review faster. If they know that the salary is determined based on level, that's something that they could ask for. Okay, so we've done our research. Now we get into the rehearsing phase. This is a challenge because we're trying to come up with a scenario. We're trying to, role play. This is where AI can be really helpful, because AI can help you come up with the role play so that you're not having to do that all on your own. And that's what we're trying to get it to help us do, right? How can we be a better coach? Because now we've got some ideas about how this might go down. So this kind of combo between research and rehearse. But we could ask AI, based on the company's website and reviews, what might I expect in terms of their philosophy, their approach, or how they communicate during a negotiation process? And it will actually do a pretty good job of that, based on their values, based on their reviews, based on news out there about the company, how might I expect them to approach a salary negotiation conversation? Try it out. Let me know what you find, right? How might they approach the conversation? Then during the kind of role play piece, I could say, write a role play example for salary negotiation in this job, give it the job description if you want to. You can ask it for a decision tree. So we're going to play around with this one. I'll show this one in the chat or in the window here. Let's pull up and we'll stick with ChatGPT. ChatGPT can be a little bit more creative in these types of conversations. So we're going to stick with this. So we've already asked about the job and the salary here. So now I'm just going to say, create a candidate tree for a candidate negotiating this offer and they're looking to move up. I'm just going to connect it more to this chat that we're already in. So I'm going to go back up here. All right. So the offer is 120 and they're targeting 130 and, which is still, so we've done the research. We know the range out there in the industry. We get offered 120. We want 130. Create a decision tree for helping us do that. And let's see what we get. So this is me as the coach wanting to help role play with my client, and I can help role play these different options. So I could say, the offer is final, and then how are they going to respond? Here are some options for how they were going to respond. As the coach, I would want to review these kinds of outputs, edit it. Sometimes AI is a little off, right? Sometimes it says things we wouldn't recommend that a client says. So I'm going to go in and just adjust these before I would propose this to a client. But we could go through and rehearse these types of options so that they're feeling how it would feel. They're saying the things they would say before they get into that situation. And we could do this with other similar things, give me phrases I could use to delay the negotiation or delay sharing my salary range if they want to delay. Give me phrases I could use to share my salary range if I want to share my salary range in the interview process. Give me the pros and cons of sharing my salary range early in the process or not, right? So though we can help people go through and understand the process and then prepare for the different parts of the process. And doing that role play is just so empowering because we don't want people to have the first time that they're saying these things be in an interview. But a lot of times as a coach, like we don't have a lot of time to come up with this role play. We don't, and so let AI help you come up with that so that you can spend your time doing the role play with your client, being creative, in the moment with them and helping them practice for that piece. Then that brings us to reflect. So I'd encourage you to record your negotiation practice with them. Then you can put it back into AI and say, based on this transcript, give me some feedback on the negotiation approach. What would you do differently? What questions could I have asked? What phrases might I have adjusted? And you can get the feedback, both as a coach, you're giving feedback, but then you can get the AI feedback from the transcript. So walk them through the process, help them research it using all the tools available, help them practice. Maybe you're going to rehearse delaying. Maybe you're going to rehearse negotiating once there's this offer. You could rehearse all of that and then get the AI to help you get feedback on what went well or what didn't. You can even then feed a job description in the after reflection and say, based on this company's approach, based on their culture, how do you think this might have gone over and how does it align, how does it not align with their culture. And if you feed enough information in, their website, any reviews, news, all of that, I would get it to collect that first and then ask those questions so that you can get feedback, not just generic feedback, but feedback actually related to what we can discern about that company and the way that they might react to the approach. So I hope that's helpful. If you want more on salary negotiation, coaching, compensation negotiation, how do you help people figure out which levers they want to negotiate, join us in the Certified Interview and Compensation Negotiation Coach Program. It starts on May 27th. We offer it live twice a year, or you can start today in the on-demand program. Such an important topic. Let me know what resources you share with clients, whether it's here or beyond. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks for the next Friday in Career Services. Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend.